Somebody sat across from me a few weeks ago and asked what she was going to walk away with. She had already done the math in her head. Half the house, half the accounts, half of everything. And that is not wrong exactly, but it is not how Ohio actually works. And the distance between those two things is where people lose money they do not get back. So today, I'm walking through how property actually gets divided in an Ohio divorce, what the court is really doing, in what order, and the three places where a 50-50 assumption quietly costs somebody. I am Jim West. I'm a realtor here in Marysville and a certified divorce real estate expert. And a lot of my work is with people who own a home in the middle of a divorce. Let me say this clearly up front. I am not an attorney, and none of this is legal advice. This is general information about how Ohio statute is written. Your attorney is the person who applies it to your life. By the end of this, you will understand the two-step the court runs, why an equal split is the starting line and not the finish line, and one thing about your house that almost nobody accounts for until it is too late to change. Here's the first piece, and it reframes everything after it. Ohio does not start by dividing your property. It starts by sorting it. Under Ohio's property division statute, the court's first job is to decide what is marital property and what is separate property. Marital property, broadly, is what either of you acquired during the marriage. The house, the savings, the vehicles, and yes, retirement accounts, even when only one name is on the account. Separate property is a shorter list. What you owned before the wedding. An inheritance that came to you specifically. A gift proven to have been made to you alone. Certain personal injury compensation. Separate property goes back to the spouse who owns it. Marital property is what actually gets divided. So which pile something lands in matters more than any percentage anybody argues about later. And here is the part that catches people off guard. Whose name is on the deed does not decide it. The statute says that directly. Holding title by yourself or together does not determine whether property is marital or separate. I've had people tell me the house is theirs because it is their name on the deed. That is not how the court looks at it. Now the flip side, because this one cuts the other direction. If you brought money into the marriage that is genuinely yours, mixing it in with marital money does not automatically destroy it. It only stops being separate when you can no longer trace it. Traceable is the whole ballgame. A down payment from before the marriage that you can document with a blank statement is one conversation. That same down payment with no paper trail behind it is a very different conversation. Now, if the house is the piece you are actually here about, who ends up with it, whether you can afford to keep it, what happens if the two of you cannot agree. I made a full video on that one question. It is called Who Gets the House in a Divorce in Ohio, and is linked right up here and down in the description. Finish this one first though, because everything we just walked through happens before any of that. Which brings me to the second piece, and this is where the 50-50 assumption comes from. It is half right. Ohio statute does say the division of marital property shall be equal, but it does not stop at that sentence. It goes on to say that if an equal division would be inequitable, the court divides it the way it determines to be equitable instead. Equal is the starting position, fair is the standard, and the court weighs a list of factors to get from one to the other. How long the marriage lasted, the assets and the debts on both sides, how liquid everything is, tax consequences, what it would cost to sell something, and whether it makes sense for the parent with the children to stay in the family home. That last one carries real weight here in Union County. When kids are settled in the Marysville, Fairbanks, or North Union schools, keeping them in place is a genuine consideration, not a sentimental one. There is one more thing worth knowing in this section. Both spouses are treated as having contributed equally to what the marriage acquired. It does not matter who earned more, and if one spouse hides assets or fails to disclose them, the statute allows a court to make that up to the other spouse. In the case of a substantial and willful failure to disclose, with an award of up to 3 times the value of what was hidden. The incentive to be complete on paper is much stronger than most people assume. Before I get to the last piece, let me say thank you for staying with me this long. Most people do not land on a video like this out of curiosity. They land here because something is happening in their life right now. If that is you, and you just want somebody to talk it through with, my number is on the screen and down in the description. No pitch, no obligation. That call is just a conversation. Now this last part was where my end of it lives, and it is the one nobody tells you about. Not every dollar in that marital pile is worth the same dollar. $100,000 in home equity and $100,000 sitting in a savings account look identical on a settlement spreadsheet. They are not the same thing. To get at the equity, somebody either sells the house or refinances it, and both of those cost money and take time. Selling carries commissions and closing costs. Refinancing means one person has to qualify for the entire mortgage on one income, and whatever rates are doing that month. The statute names all of this. Liquidity is a factor, tax consequences are a factor, and the cost of sale is a factor, which means the number the house is carried at drives the entire agreement. Value the home too high, and the person keeping it buys out a share that was never really there. Value it too low, and the person leaving walks away short. And there is no fixing it afterward. A property division in Ohio is not subject to future modification unless both people agree to it in writing. Here in Marysville and across Union County, values have climbed a long way over the last several years. I see people working from a number in their head from back when they refinanced, or a Zillow estimate they pulled up on their phone in the parking lot. That is not the number a decision this permanent should rest on. What your attorney needs is a supportable current evaluation of the actual house, its condition on that street in this market. So the court sorts before it splits, and the deed does not decide which pile you are in. Equal is where Ohio starts, not where every case lands. And everything in that marital pile, the house is usually the biggest piece and the hardest one to turn into money, which is exactly why the number attached to it deserves more care than anything else on the list. If you are facing this and you own a home in Ohio, I'm a resource, not a salesperson. I hold the CDRE, RCSD, and CDS designations, which makes me the only real estate agent in Ohio with all 3. And a lot of what I do is give people and their attorneys an accurate picture of what the house is actually worth before decisions get made that cannot be undone. So call or text me, 614-507-5732, or visit jimwestteam.com. Everything we talk about stays between us. And if the house itself is a question you came in with, that video is waiting right at the end of this one. I'm Jim West in Marysville, and I'll see you in the next one.